When Neil Trotter told the staff at his father's office that he would soon be a multi-millionaire and retire, they all thought it was a joke. But it turned out to manifest, much to everyone's surprise. Have you ever projected something good for yourself and it came to pass? Let's live through the life of this former mechanic from Colston, Surrey, who won big in the Euro Millions. The 7th of March 2014 will remain memorable in the life of Neil Trotter, a mechanic from Colston, South London. This is the day he won the Euro Millions jackpot of £107.9 million, making him the fourth biggest winner at the time. But there's something about this man that mesmerized everyone. He had had a premonition about winning the lottery. "I've always thought I'd win big, and I'd had a good feeling all week. I had a funny feeling that I had to play the lottery. I just knew I had to do it. So I just stopped on the way to work and bought £10 of Lucky Dip," he said in an interview. Then after purchasing the lottery, he continued having the peculiar feeling, and it was strong on that Friday. "I had such a strong feeling on Friday that I'd win. I told the secretary at work," he said. Neil, 41 at the time, worked as a mechanic and car sprayer. He owned a repair garage called Chameleon Coachworks in Mitcham. During a discussion revolving around money, some of his friends said they needed £5 million and another £10 million. When he told them he needed £110 million, they were stunned. They asked him why he needed such an amount of money, and he told them it was the amount he needed to execute everything he had in mind. Then, on that Friday during lunchtime, he told staff at his father's office that this time tomorrow, he would be a multi-millionaire. Like a wish immediately approved by natural forces, Neil found out hours later that he had won the Euro Millions Lucky Dip of a stunning £107,932,603. Incredible! How'd he do it? How'd he know he was gonna win? "Being a trotter, I knew I'd be a millionaire one day, and I somehow knew I'd win the lottery," he recalled of his surreal prediction. The Surrey native said he had often told his father that one day he would own a house with a lake, and he would tell him, "In your dreams, son." Do you play the lottery? How optimistic are you on winning a jackpot? Please let us know in the comments. Neil recalled how he found out he had won the Euro Millions. "I took out my ticket to check the winning numbers, and amazingly, one by one they matched," he said. "I told Nikki, my partner, I've done it. I've won the lottery. But she told me to shut up and stop being an idiot." According to him, he turned white as a sheet and couldn't sit still. He kept walking around the house because he didn't know what to do with himself. "I got her to check the numbers with me and she started screaming," Neil narrated. To get another person to take a look at the ticket in case their eyes were deceiving them, Neil called his dad, Jim Trotter, 69, and told him about the jackpot. He told him he was being an idiot. "It took him a while to realize we were serious. My dad's not often lost for words, but he was on Friday night." Neil and his partner eventually went to bed at about 3 o'clock GMT, but he said he couldn't sleep, and first thing in the morning, he called Camelot, the lottery organizer. Neil said he knew people could joke about his surname and the fact he had become a millionaire. "Me and my dad thought we'd heard all the only fools and horses jokes, but I can see this is going to run and run," he said. "Still, being trotters, we were always going to be millionaires one day," he added. For Neil, the feeling had always been with him. It was all intuitive, and with that confidence, he predicted winning the lottery. And it came true. In an interview with Timothy Schultz, Neil explained the importance of having a positive mindset to whatever one does. He had the confidence. He had always believed he would win a lottery. According to him, he'd always manifested he'd be a winner of mega money. He claimed he'd always envisioned himself having a house with its lakes, despite being a mechanic and a car sprayer. Please use this moment to hit the like button. Subscribe. Thanks for doing that. Let's go on. So, how did Neil spend his money? Well, Neil can be described as a race car fan, so when he upgraded his Ford Focus and bought Jaguars and Porsches, he brought his dream of driving fast cars to reality. He had always dreamt of having a house with its lakes. When he won the Euro Millions jackpot, he knew a majority of his dreams were now within his reach, particularly that of the house. He embarked on a journey to find his dream abode. Neil eventually bought a 500-acre estate with a manor house and also lakes. But in an interview, he described life after winning the lottery as quite boring. He said in an interview, "Going from having to work to not having to work anymore was quite a strange thing to adjust to. I soon found out that sitting at home watching telly all day was quite boring." Neil, 50 in 2023, acknowledged that he experienced a level of struggle adjusting to having such a massive amount of money. But knowing it had always been his dream to buy a house with a lot of land and lakes, he finally was able to embrace his new fortune. Then he had to swing into action to further his dream. To bring most aspects of it to fruition, he started the journey of upgrading his property. For Neil, a luxurious lifestyle of going to five-star hotels, expensive restaurants, and luxury vacations were not in his plans. Instead, he got down to digging, chopping, and renovating. But was it overwhelming for him? Well, yes. At times, it seemed like I'd bitten off more than I could chew. I always dreamt of having my own lake, but owning so much land has been a huge challenge and responsibility, Neil said. The idea of going for the 500-acre parcel was so daunting that his partner, Nikki Ottaway, 42, in 2023, tried to dissuade him initially from buying the property. She was concerned about the safety on the property considering its condition. The first winter had the house flooded, among other challenges that came along. The project was too big. The woodlands were in poor state. There were so many dead trees everywhere and the house was barely livable, despite its size, Nikki said. There are at least 6 ponds and lakes that need dredging, and tons of dead trees have needed shifting from the woodlands. But the hard work has been worth it, Neil said, as one of his greatest achievements is an arboretum showcasing almost every tree type in Britain. My current favorite piece of kit is the muncher on my digger. Perfect for clearing the overgrown cover in the woodlands so that new trees can grow, he added. Neil is proud of his investment in nature, in upgrading the quality of flora and fauna on his property. He described his land as an oasis for wildlife, which included mandarin ducks, herons, deer, stoats, and kestrels. It's a pat on the back after all the hard work to see the wildlife returning to the estate, he said. Neil and his partner have spent 9 years building up the land and house, bringing them to amazing conditions. I've learned so much about how to manage woods and how to reverse the effects of intensive farming. It's been a challenging 9 years, but I'm immensely proud of what we've achieved, and I'm never bored, he said. According to Neil, they planted miles of native hedgerows to cater for birds in winter. That would guarantee them food in the winter, and they were able to bring back the mandarin duck population when they cleared muddy puddles in the woods and transformed them into wildlife oases. The mandarin duck population now booms. Herons now nest here. We've got kestrels, 2 species of deer, and smaller mammals such as stoats, he explained. The estate also boasts of beautiful flowers and a large population of butterflies. Neil said he has no plans of stopping continuous improvement on his estate. While sitting on a digger in driving rain might not be everyone's when I win the lottery dream, it's exactly as I hoped it would be, and more, he said. Winning the Euro Millions in 2014, it propelled him to millionaire status and helped him to measure up with his businessman father, who's a director of 3 companies. One of his father's businesses included a cat litter distributing business worth $2.4 million then. Documents filed with Companies House indicated the company, which Mr. Trotter Sr. had headed for 22 years, had filed for profits of more than £130,000 in the last decades, as reported in 2014. Neil's father's company, B&D Clays, claims to operate in Canada, Denmark, Cyprus, Spain, France, and the USA, and represent some major companies in Europe. With his winnings, Neil could easily buy luxury cars to complement the fleet already owned by his father. Yes, after going public in 2014, it was realized that Neil's father loved fast cars too, and had about 4 luxury cars. A Porsche, a Jaguar F-Type, and a 4x4 in the driveway of his South London home. Neil, in an interview, couldn't help but smile as he recalled how he and his partner, Nikki, celebrated their win with 2 bottles of Budweiser before they spent a night full of thoughts of how their lives were about to change. Neil talked about how his ex-girlfriend and mother of his then 10-year-old daughter got to know about his winnings while in Mexico on a honeymoon with her new husband, who worked for Formula One boss Bernie Eccleston. "That's typical of you, Trotter," she told him in the text message. Neil was very careful with his money. His father revealed Neil sought advice from financial institutions. He also asked his bank to copy his dad in emails concerning his account, but he told them he isn't going to be a signatory on the account, which was very wise. Trotter Sr. explained in an interview, at the time of winning the Euro Millions jackpot, Neil said he had no plans to get married to his long-term girlfriend, in case he regrets it later. Now, well, I think everyone has their own reasons, but it's good to know both of them are still together, going strong for about 19 years now. What do you think makes lottery winners skeptical about getting married to their partners? Please tell us in the comments and keep watching. Over the years, Neil has also helped his family. He didn't just go ahead and acquire land and develop it, he also bought a house for his younger sister, who had struggled financially. His sister was overwhelmed with joy when he was able to fulfill his promise to her. He didn't forget to take care of his then 10-year-old daughter, although he wasn't going to give her everything she wanted. "She just wants a pony," Neil said at the time. "I've brought her up on the basis that she can't have things willy-nilly. It's a bit harder now. However, I'm not going to spoil her." But having a house with different lakes wasn't the only interest Neil had. He's a self-confessed motor racing enthusiast and had participated in the game for several years in hot rod racing and stock hatch racing. In fact, he participated in the BMW Compact Cup as a newcomer in the summer of 2013 and finished in 6th place. Neil, who had worked as a mechanic for 15 years before winning the lottery, said at the time, "I think it would be rude not to retire. I couldn't go and do it now. I've been doing it for 15 years and it's a really hard graft." Then he added, "I have a few phone calls to make to let people down, but this is my time now. I'm taking off and going to really enjoy following the British Touring Car Championships." Most people quit the moment they realize they've won the jackpot. How would you react towards your job if you won the jackpot? Let us know in the comments as we continue on this trailblazing tale. Neil's partner, Nikki, also resigned from her work as an accountant after their winnings. A lover of horses and horse riding, she was excited about the new things they'd be able to afford. According to her at the time, she and Neil did small spot essential shopping, and it stunned people around how they could afford some of the luxury stuff. She once described how she inquired about an expensive handbag. "I asked the sales guy how much it was. He said £1,100, but he'd already turned his back and had already walked away from us," Nikki said. "I hope he's regretting it now." At the time, Neil expressed his eagerness to go to the next level. "I drive a Ford Focus at the moment. It's always been reliable, but the steering wheel is black from oil off my hands, and it's time for an upgrade. There's a lot of stunning cars out there. I'm going to need a lot of garage space at the new house. I would like to own a hypercar. That would be amazing. Something like the McLaren," he said. He also mentioned he would buy a Range Rover for his partner, Nikki. As years went by, Neil worked much harder than he ever did in the past. He wanted his vision for the land to be realized. Today, the land is a testament of human commitment to environmental development. Neil has often made it clear that he isn't planning on slowing down on improving his estate, which is now a symbol of rebirth. "I may be a millionaire, but there's no sitting in armchairs with a pipe and slippers for me," he said. As a car racing fan, Neil is currently supporting a young racing driver, Lewis Brown, who's participating in the TCR Europe Touring Car Series. "I'm able to provide him the type of support I could only dream of when I was a young driver. But I'm a big believer in helping people who help themselves. And Lewis has shown nothing but hard work and commitment, so he deserves a bit of a leg up from me," he said. Back in 2014, Neil's jackpot win made him worth more than celebrities such as George Michael and Robbie Williams, who both had £105 million, and David Bowie, who was worth £100 million as revealed by Sunday Times Rich List. At the time of the winnings, Neil was also worth more than the movie couple Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter, who were worth £80 million. Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne worth £100 million, and Rolling Stone Charlie Watts, who was worth £90 million. The win also placed his worth above motor racing mogul Eddie Irvine, who was worth £54 million after investing his Formula One earnings in an international property venture. Neil became part of the elite club of British lottery winners who had each gotten more than £100 million. The rich list, which includes names like Joe and Jess Thwaite, Colin and Chris Weir, Adrian and Gillian Bayford, and Neil Trotter, has a lot of anonymous winners too. Neil's neighbors also had some things to say after he won the mega lottery, and they dubbed him a lucky sod. Neil and Nikki are a lovely couple, of course. I would say that just in case they decide to treat their caring, fantastic neighbors to new cars. One of the locals said, "He's a lucky sod, but he's actually a nice guy. I wish them both all the best, I really do. No doubt they'll make some big charitable donations too," another neighbor said. Neil was once asked why he made his winnings public and not anonymous like some winners. He said he couldn't pretend such an amount didn't come his way because he wasn't good at pretending. "It was quite tricky, but I don't really see that there's an option but to go public. If you want to live the dream, which is the house, the money, and spend it, you've got to go public. People have said in the past that they would hide the money. I think £107 million is going to be impossible to hide," he added. 9 years on, Neil and Nikki have proved that not all lottery winners split from their partners after winning, and not all squander their winnings. What's more, the environment had benefited greatly from the lottery, as Neil restored the land he bought to a flourishing and prosperous place. His secret of winning the lottery remains paying attention to your intuition, being positive on your dreams and pursuing them. What do you think of Neil Trotter and his sojourn since winning the Euro Millions £107.9 million? If you won a jackpot, would you be disciplined enough to handle your wealth properly like Neil? Thanks for watching to the end. Subscribe and turn notifications on so you get to be the first to watch our new videos.